Hey folks, so let's have a look at what I take in my beginner's astrophotography camera bag. So I thought the best place to start was, well, the camera that I'm recording on is on a tripod, so why don't we start with, I have a tripod in my bag. I've used two types of mounts. Now any tripod will do, the lighter the better, but you know, if you can't afford a tripod, so I just get this one in position. There we go. You can use, I just use a metal tripod. I can't afford a carbon fibre one. And this is the head I've been using recently. It's a pan and tilt head. So it can move on two axes. If I just loosen off that there, it can tilt like that and rotate, which is very good if you're doing panos, where you're stitching multiple shots together, which you will do in astrophotography. So I'm just going to move that out of the way. So essentially, and you probably notice that, well actually we'll just bring that back, because if we just get that to focus again. If we move this, you'll notice that the tripod head itself can rock. It's called it's like the tripod has a built-in tilt head, so that if I have the tripod on uneven ground, it's very easy to level it. You can see there we've got levels built in to the actual tripod head itself, which makes leveling it really easy. So it's called a leveling head, that. And a lot of tripods have them built in, or you can buy them separately. Now, you might not have that, and in fact when I start, I didn't have that. I had this type of head here, which is called a ball head. And the ball head is literally, you loosen it off with the handle, and the ball just flops around, and then you tighten the handle and it locks it in position. They're very quick to adjust, but they're a pain to level. And although I have managed panos with them, and I'll show you some shots at the end if you stick around, and what I've produced with the kit I've got, stick around to the end and we'll go through the shots I produced and how I produced them. But if you're just getting started, it's nice to have those tilt, the head I just showed you the first, which is the two-way tilt, but they're very expensive. This one I've got here, it's just a Lefoto one. I'll put a link in the description. It's about £170, whereas a cheap pan and tilt head like this, you can pick up for probably about £30. So they're a lot cheaper. So the next thing that's related to tripods you'll need is this, which is, the camera will decide to focus on it. There we go. Just let the sunlight catch that. It's an L bracket. And an L bracket's better than a standard. Normally you would just mount a tripod on an Arca Swiss mount, which is just a plate that fastens to the bottom of the camera. In fact, I haven't got one on this camera, got one on that camera, but they're just a square plate that fastens on the bottom. An L bracket gives you the ability to very quickly orient the camera in portrait and landscape mode, and when it comes to astrophotography, they're a godsend because it's so easy to orient the camera very quickly. And you'll find a lot of the panos you do where you're stitching shots together, you're going to do in portrait, because you're going to get more vertically, you'll get more in the picture vertically. And if you don't have a pan and tilt, you are messing around with your ball head, trying to orient it so it's horizontal, and it's awkward. Whereas if you use the two-way tilt head, that works beautifully. with an L bracket. So that's the mounts out the way. So you might already have a tripod. If you've got like a ball head, you're ready to get started. Now, next things I bring along is lighting. Sometimes I've tried a little bit of light painting. I'm not going to show you how to do it, but there's two reasons you need lights. First of all, you need a light to see, which is, I've got this. I'll just let the camera focus on that. There you go. So this is a rechargeable headlamp, and it's got a main beam which is very bright for finding your way, and then it's got a smaller light which is just sort of for locating things near you, and it can go into red mode, or it can be like a sort of a white light. Now, red light's very important because when you use red light for night photography, it lets your eyes adjust to the light. So if you're using red light, you can still see what you're doing, but you'll also see more easily the night sky. Whereas if you're using white light, your eyes adjust to it and you can't see what you're focusing on. So red lights, it's very important to have one. I find rechargeable ones are better, so I don't have to mess around with batteries. And the one I've got here was £20, and it lasts about 3-4 hours on a single charge, which is fine. And I can even use it for light painting it if I'm struggling. Now, I do have a few other lights that I use. I've got this, which I've got a separate review on. If you go on, I can link that as well, which is the Zion M20C, which is a RGB light. Does all sorts of things. Not going to exactly what it does here, but it's battery powered and it's quite handy for illuminating things in the foreground if you want to do that. But there are other techniques for doing the foreground, but save that for another video. And equally, if I want to either light paint or light up inside my bag, I've just got this little camping light. So I've got a little camping light there, which is again variable brightness, and it can do warm colours or it can do cold colours, but it's not an RGB light, but it's very handy to pinch just to switch on to see what you're doing if you need something to brighten up. But I mostly rely on the head torch for that. And of course, sometimes you need power when you're in the field, and we've got these power banks basically. So let's see if the camera will focus on them. There we go. So just rotate those around so you see just a selection of power banks. There we go. And I've got some of the smaller power banks. I've got these. These have built-in batteries as well. They're not very high capacity, but they'll still keep your phone charged or keep your camera running. In fact, because I'm in the garden today, I'm running off one of these power banks to keep the camera recording rather than bring something out, and they're really handy for that. Now, one thing I can't show you, which is related to the power banks as well, is that if you're doing astrophotography in the winter when you likely will and it's cold, and I don't have one of these, I borrowed one off a friend, is a lens warmer. Now, I can't show you one, but lens warmers will stop the lens from fogging up and condensation appearing on the lens, so that if you get condensation, the lens gets moisture on it, and you just get a very foggy, damp-looking picture. It just won't work. So we've gone through a few things related to power, apart from one more thing, which of course is lots of spare batteries. So I carry about 3 spare batteries with me. As I say, though, in a pinch, because I've got my power banks, I can run the camera from a power bank for a prolonged period of time. So a few more things before we get on to the actual camera. Just some cleaning cloths, along with a dust blower to clean the lenses, because you're going to get dust. Of course, just some spare memory cards. a little multi-tool, which is used for tightening tripods and generally camera related things, but mainly tripod plates and things like that. Of course, to go with the power bank, some USB leads, and that's pretty much it for all the ancillary bits. So now I started with a very simple setup. So this is my Lumix S52X with the 24-105 f4 lens, and I took a couple of shots. I'll bring some up that I did with this lens, and they came out all right. They were just single exposures, and it got me going because the lenses can get quite expensive. So it's an f4 lens. Now ideally you want to let as much light in as possible, so you want as fast a lens as possible, but f2.8 f2 lenses are expensive. So if you'll probably find when you're starting out you're using a kit lens or something like an f4 lens, which is okay, you can manage with it, especially if you do stacking. So I will cover stacking in another video. But it's basically where you take multiple shots with, say, at f4, and say the exposure is 5 seconds on each shot, and then you take 10 shots, that's a total exposure time of 50 seconds. And then you use special software to stack it and remove the noise between the different frames, and you actually get a much better image from essentially a slow lens. The camera is an S52X, which is a full frame camera. Ideally, if you can, you want to use a full frame camera. It's not essential, you can use any camera, but the larger the sensor, the more light gathering capability it has. And I've tried cropped sensor cameras and they're okay, but they do have noisier images than a full frame camera. So I've got a full frame camera. That's what I use for astrophotography. Now, I did manage to get a hold of a couple of lenses, so I've got 2 lenses I mainly use now that I've managed to be able to buy some. My first lens that I use is my ultra wide. It's a manual focus, and of course for the most part you will be using manual focus lenses, or you will have your lens in manual focus mode, because your camera can't autofocus in these conditions. So you'll use focus peaking and manual focus. So a manual focus lens is ideal for this. And the Laowa is an f2 lens. Brand new, it's going to cost you about £800 to £900. I managed to pick one up on a special offer for £400. So it was mint condition, half price. I think they'd had it a while at the shop, hadn't been able to sell it. I picked it up and it's a beautiful starting lens to get. It's 15mm f2, so it's super wide, and lets you get about 100 degrees. I think it's about 100 degrees of the night sky, and so 180 degrees would be half the night sky, but that's into what's called fisheye territory, which can be quite interesting in astrophotography. I'm looking to get a fisheye lens at some point. TT Artisans do a 10mm fisheye lens, which gives quite interesting results. You can get like half the sky in, so you could literally get the Milky Way in one shot, rather than do 6 vertical panos, which is what I use, and I will talk about that in a minute. And the other lens I got, which was a surprise one, which was a budgety lens, about £180, is the Meki f2 35mm, which is a nice sort of medium focal length to get a nice, what the human eye sees look, and you can get closer up shots where you haven't got quite the distortion that you get on a 15mm lens, because 15mm is so wide that you'll tend to get things at the edge sort of stretched and look a bit weird. That's what goes with a wide angle lens. So let's have a quick look at some examples of what you can expect. So we'll do the 35mm first. So this is a shot I took of a Northumberland bathing house in Northumberland, UK. And as you can see, it's I've stacked it, which means I've taken a long exposure of 60 seconds for the foreground, and then I think it took 7 or 8 more shots for the sky, And then I've used some stacking software. I'll link in the description the details of the stacking software, which stacks the images together, arranges them, makes sure that the foreground doesn't move, because normally you need to track the sky, but you can get away with clever stacking software that gets around the fact that the sky moves. That's a subject for another video as well. And you can see you get a nice uniform result. You're quite zoomed in on the Milky Way core here, but you've also got lovely detail on the foreground subject, and crucially the verticals are vertical because it's a 35mm lens and it doesn't suffer the distortion. Conversely, we've got a similar shot taken on the lower 15mm, pretty much the same composition, but you'll see we've got a lot more of the surrounding area in. We've got a much larger chunk of the Milky Way in. But again, it was the same thing, a foreground exposure of 60 seconds and then 7 or 8 sky exposures all stacked together to produce that image. Now equally, when I used the lower lens as well, I put the camera in portrait orientation and took about 6 shots, single exposures, and produced this arch of the Milky Way. So that about wraps it up, folks. So if you got value from the video and you enjoyed it, please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all very soon. Bye.